Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another edition of NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, the YouTube channel, and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. Got your questions here via spring.me/AaronRift. So let's get started with the first one today from the Jobinator. Hey Aaron, if Bray Wyatt manages to beat John Cena at WrestleMania, do you think we will get Wyatt versus Undertaker at next year's WrestleMania? As much as I would like to see Taker and John Cena, I want to see Wyatt and Taker just as much. I think it's unlikely that we will see that match at WrestleMania. First off, a lot of it depends on Bray Wyatt and how much momentum the character has over the next year. It's really hard to say how much staying power this character will have. But, you know, as much as Bray Wyatt versus Undertaker sounds like an interesting match on paper, I still think your best bet for WrestleMania 31 is to do John Cena versus The Undertaker. No matter how over Bray Wyatt gets, unless he gets super over to a level where he is at John Cena or somebody else like that, which I don't see happening, by the way. But if that was to happen, I could see Bray Wyatt and Undertaker as a possibility. But I think the real money is Undertaker versus John Cena. I think that if Undertaker was around more often and on a semi part-time like schedule, I think you could do Bray Wyatt versus Undertaker, just not at WrestleMania. I think you're missing out if you don't do Undertaker and Cena. But there's also a lot of factors, including what happens if John Cena suffers a major injury or something. Bray Wyatt might be available then. So a lot of it just depends on what's going to happen with Bray Wyatt's character, and there's so many circumstances. But if it was me, I would still go with Undertaker and Cena if you have the option. All right, this one comes from Cam Hughes 21. Hey Aaron, do you think WWE should bring back the Cyber Sunday/Taboo Tuesday pay-per-view since they want the fans to get involved in the shows using the WWE app and social media? Please answer in video. I actually think it would be a good idea to bring this back because the times have changed and the pay-per-view buy rates aren't important anymore because the key is getting people to subscribe to the WWE network, and once they're subscribed, they're going to be watching every monthly pay-per-view, so it doesn't matter what the pay-per-view is really or what the format is. Now that it's a different period, you could consider bringing this back, and we all know how WWE loves to shill the social media and promote that and get the fans involved. I think it would be a good idea to bring it back, and it's certainly a possibility. I'd rather see a Cyber Sunday pay-per-view where the fans make the match as opposed to Battleground or one of those pay-per-views that really serves no purpose. At least with Cyber Sunday, it's an interesting concept, and I always thought it was an interesting concept. It just, for whatever reason, didn't do well on pay-per-view, but now times have changed, and would not surprise me if they did bring it back at some point. And I'd also like to see King of the Ring come back, and people have asked me about that before. King of the Ring, Cyber Sunday. Rather see those pay-per-views than Battleground or Over the Limit or those pay-per-views that really serve no purpose at all. All right, this next one comes from Anti-Stress Kid. Hi Aaron, do you think CM Punk being placed at #1 in the Royal Rumble played a bigger part of him walking out, or just his unhappiness towards WWE's creative team? Well, I honestly don't think that the Royal Rumble had anything to do with him leaving. He was positioned very well in that match, about as well as possible, without actually winning the whole thing. He was the guy that came in at #1 and lasted just about the entire match. So, WWE purposely positioned him to look very strong in that match. Besides him selling that move from El Torito. That was ridiculous. But everything else, CM Punk was made to look like a guy who could go all the way, and, he was protected in that match. So I don't think that had anything to do with it. And we still don't really know all the facts. We don't know the reason why CM Punk left because he's been quiet about it. We can only assume that he was upset about not being in the main event at WrestleMania. I mean, CM Punk versus Triple H would have been a big match for WrestleMania. That was a main event match. It was going to be one of the top matches. So It's really hard to say why he walked out other than the fact that he wants to be the number one guy, and that just wasn't going to happen at this point. All right, this one comes from RDub1986. Hey Aaron, when do you see Chris Jericho inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame? And if he has another run in WWE, do you see him being champion, maybe IC or tag team champions? Congrats on 400 plus episodes. Well, thank you for that. I think that we will see Chris Jericho again for another run. That is expected. As far as him having a title run, I think that if he's going to have a title run at this point, it should be the world title. Let him have one final run on top as champion. That, I think, is the best way to utilize him if he's going to be the champion. And there's really not a point in having him be champion if he's only going to be around for a short period of time. If he's only coming in for a couple of months, not working house shows, he's just being a special attraction, then it's really not necessary, I think, to have him as IC or tag team champion. But certainly it would be cool for him to have one final run similar to The Rock where he can come in and maybe have one more big WrestleMania match. I'd like to see that happen, and I definitely think he deserves that. And as far as going into Hall of Fame, obviously he should be in, and it's just a matter of time. I think it's too soon right now. If it was me, I would give it 5 to 10 years, maybe 2020, around that time. You could put Chris Jericho in the Hall of Fame, but definitely not in the near future. I think it's too soon for that. Okay, this next one comes from CPW1978. NoDQ reported on Bully Ray's tweet about possibly returning to WWE. Would he bring Devon with him? Would we see a Dudley versus Rhodes feud? Dudley's with Spike versus the Wyatts. I think that if Bully Ray, Bubba Ray Dudley comes back to WWE, I think it'll be with Devon. I just don't see Bully Ray coming back and being a singles. WWE fans remember the Dudley Boyz, and that was the team that has the nostalgia behind it. And I don't see them coming back and, being a regular team. They're going to be a legendary tag team. They're going to have that nostalgia. And because of that, I think it's best to bring them back as a team. So, that's what I would expect. And, you could definitely put them in there with some of the young teams, the Usos, and, similar to New Age Outlaws, maybe have one more run as the tag team champions. I could definitely see that happening. And, fans are still chanting, "We want tables" to this day. So, would not surprise me at all to see a Dudley Boyz reunion in WWE before they retire. All right, this one comes from I Am Voss. Hey Aaron, do you think Kane was ever a superstar WWE planned to have around for as long as they have done? I don't think so. Honestly, when Kane first came into WWE, I thought that it was just going to be a short-term character, somebody for The Undertaker to feud with and have a big match with at WrestleMania. I thought Kane was going to be done after WrestleMania, but the character really caught on. I mean, it was obvious from the beginning this wasn't just another random character for The Undertaker to feud with. Kane was really getting over with the fans, and WWE had him come out, destroy everybody, and the feud went on beyond WrestleMania, and Kane actually got some wins over Undertaker, and it kept going for several years, and they changed up the character. They had him as a baby face with X-Pac, and then had him go back and forth between being a heel and a face, took off the mask, put it back on, and by changing up the character, they've managed to keep Kane around for a very long time, and the character has had staying power. I certainly was not expecting that. I did not think that the Kane character would be around as long as it has been around. So, hats off to Glenn Jacobs and WWE. I mean, that he has been one of the most memorable characters in the history of the company. And a lot of it is due to just him evolving and changing the character and not keeping it the same. All right, this one comes from Shiggy Diggy Bang. A lot of people thought that the Wyatt family gimmick wouldn't succeed, being that it is too gimmicky for this era. However, they're pretty over right now. Do you see their success opening the door for more gimmicky wrestlers in the future? Absolutely, and I think the key to the Wyatt family is that they are different. It is something different from the usual characters that we are used to seeing in WWE. And different in the wrestling industry is always a good thing. It's always good to stand out from the rest of the pack, and that's what you have with the Wyatt family. They are completely unique. There's no other group like them in WWE. You know, you go back, you look at characters like Goldust. You know, these are characters that stood out, one-of-a-kind characters, Undertaker and Kane, going back to the earlier question. So I think that is a main reason why the Wyatt family has done so well, because it's just a breath of fresh air. It's something different that we haven't seen. And I think that, you know, going back to the earlier question about Bray Wyatt, if the Wyatt family evolves over time and the characters change and we see layers to this gimmick, we could see Bray Wyatt as a headliner in WWE for years to come, and maybe even have a match with Undertaker one day. I mean, that remains to be seen. But yeah, I think that because the characters are different and it's something new, I think that has a lot to do with it. And I'd love to see more characters come in and just, you know, more creativity, you know, beyond the guy comes out with the tights and the knee pads and the boots, and, you know, they have a different look and they stand out from everybody else. I mean, I'd love to see more of those types of characters. All right, this one comes from AJ Singh 1234. Hi Aaron, what independent wrestling promotions would you recommend for your viewers to watch? Please reply back in NoDQ&A video 439. Well, the obvious answer is Ring of Honor. I've always been a fan of PWG because they're local, and I've been able to go to a lot of PWG shows over the years. And if you're a fan of you know, lots of in-ring wrestling with very little storylines and over-the-top characters, then PWG is the promotion to watch. And, you know, WWE keeps an eye out on them, and they're scouting talent from PWG and Ring of Honor. So, I mean, those are the main ones. And, you know, there's lots of good indie promotions in Southern California. EWF is a good promotion. And, you know, those are the ones that I would recommend. All right, that'll do it for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Thanks, as always, for watching. Subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQCAW if you haven't already. Share this video on Facebook and Twitter. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for TNA lockdown coverage. And before I go, I got one final question here from Brandon GFYS. Hey Aaron, even though I don't want it to happen, with the Shield's impending breakup on the way, do you think that they would ever be able to reform in the future like most factions do? Do you think that it would work in the future? Well, I think that reuniting would be a step backwards unless the three of them get really over. I mean, if the three of them reunite, it looks like they're not working out on their own, and that they're going back to being a unit because that was how they got over, and they just aren't getting over on their own. So, you know, that could be a bad sign if they did that, and it could look weak if they did that. And when you look at Evolution, I mean, they never really reformed because Batista got really huge, Randy Orton got really huge, and there wasn't a need to reunite that group and go back to the past. But I could see down the line maybe the three of them getting together and having one match. And we have seen in the past factions reunite, like the Four Horsemen. There were several comebacks for the Horsemen, but you know, when the NWO tried to reform, it didn't work. And it's just the concept of going back to something you already did because what you're currently doing isn't working. So I think it's unlikely that the Shield will reunite. I mean, it's unfortunate because once they break up, you know, they'll be on their own, and they've done so tremendously together. You know, it would be a sad moment to see them go off on their own and do their own thing. But at the same time, it's inevitable because, you know, all three of them, I think, have a lot to offer as single stars. And especially Roman Reigns is a guy that WWE feels could be the next John Cena, the next guy that carries the company into the next decade. So, you know, the three of them have enough talent to succeed on their own, and we'll see what happens with them. So that'll do it for the NoDQ&A video. I'll see you guys next time for more.